President-elect Donald Trump has been named Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Time says he started running for president in 2015. Perhaps no single person since then has played a larger role in changing the course of politics and history than Trump. This marks the second time Trump has received that distinction. Back in 2016, he got it. Joining us live to talk about this, Eric Cortellessa. He is Time's political correspondent. Thank you for being with us here this afternoon, Eric.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
So you've covered Mr. Trump for some time with Time and Washington Monthly. What do you think that this honor means for the president-elect now?
Well, I should start off by saying I know as many people may see it that way, but it's not an honor. It's not an award. For the last 97 years, Time has chosen the person who, for better or worse, for good or ill, has done the most to shape the world and headlines for the last 12 months. And some years it's a really difficult decision. This year it wasn't. Donald Trump was clearly the person who had that most significant impact. He came 4 years ago after leaving the White House. He was a pariah, having instigated a mob of his supporters to attack the Capitol on January 6th. And this year alone, he steamrolled the Republican primary, clinching it faster than almost any other contested primary in American history. He was convicted of a crime, the first former president to be found guilty on 34 felony counts, didn't put a dent in his electoral prospects. He survived an assassination attempt. He beat not one but two Democrats in the general election. For the first time in 20 years, a Republican won the popular vote. Donald Trump won the popular vote. He swept all 7 swing states, and he really expanded his coalition to include larger chunks of Latino men, young women, suburban moms, etc. It's just very clear, based on the scope of the last year, that Donald Trump has mounted the most improbable political comeback in American history, and that he's done the most to shape the world and is poised to make a lot of impacts once he assumes office on January 20th.
Eric, it's interesting to see that Elon got this nod back in 2021. Perhaps the president and Elon, president-elect, we should say, weren't as close then. Do you think the goal is for them next year in 2025 to make this a joint honor next year? I know you didn't call it an honor, but maybe you think they want to be on the cover together next year?
I don't know if they do or don't, but it's not their choice.
I know there's a lot you could say. You've covered this man for quite some time, but is there something you're really looking forward to or anticipating in this second Trump term?
Well, I mean, I'm obviously going to be paying very close attention to the style in which Trump governs, whether or not he respects the constitutional norms that have governed the presidents of the past, whether he is successful at implementing his agenda and delivering on his campaign promises. I mean, I think one thing noteworthy is that Donald Trump is going to have to contend with many of the same forces that he rode to power in 2024. There's still a post-pandemic restiveness here and abroad, right? We've seen that in the incumbents that have been ousted in democracies all across the world after the pandemic. He's going to have to contend with the rise of China. He's going to have to contend in this inflationary environment. You know, we still have dealt with inflation after the pandemic. He's going to impose tariffs. We'll see what kinds of effects that has. Most economists predict that will lead to higher prices. So I think, Donald Trump also is going to be dealing with crises overseas, both the wars in Europe and the Middle East. So, I mean, it really is a moment of truth for whether or not Donald Trump can succeed in the way that he vowed to on the campaign trail.
Eric, we're also hearing this afternoon some reports showing that Melania, the First Lady, will not be living at the White House, and that will even hold true even if Barron, say, decides to go to Georgetown, that she'll be living in New York. What do you make of that?
Well, I haven't seen that report. I know that, when we asked Trump at Mar-a-Lago 3 days before Thanksgiving, he said that the former and soon-to-be First Lady Melania Trump would be joining him at the White House. So some mixed messaging there, but I guess we'll know in due time. President Trump, you talked about the unprecedented nature of this, joining Grover Cleveland as the only president to win his first term, lose his reelection bid, and then come back 4 years later to win again. Talking to him, do you sense that he's thrilled, or what emotions are going through his head right now? You certainly sense a feeling of vindication for Trump, but I will say he's more subdued. I spoke to him last in April, and he was assertive and confident in those conversations. Seemed like he was on a trajectory toward victory. Felt like he had history in his hands. And in this last conversation, I found him to have the volume turned down. I mean, he was less defensive, certainly in tone, than he has been in the past. And it was interesting. He expressed a kind of wistfulness about the fact that his last campaign is behind him. He said it's sad in a way. We'll never do it again, referring to the rallies and the ability to surmount all of these scandals and controversies, things that would sink any other political figure that he's been able to resuscitate himself from. And I think, not having the fight of a campaign is a loss for him. I think he really enjoys the stimulation that comes from the pursuit of the presidency.
And before I let you go, I noticed I'm new in town, and a lot of folks will learn to know that I am a huge Buffalo Bills fan, as are you. So where do you see, more importantly, the most important thing happening in January is the Bills playoff run? How do you see that playing out?
Well, I will be there in Orchard Park. I'm a season ticket holder for the last 15 years. I predict Josh Allen will be the MVP. He's the clear choice. He's the best player in the league. And I think this January will be more successful for the Bills than the last 3 or 4. I got a good feeling. We've got a special team. We've got the best player in the league.
Okay. Eric Cortellessa from Time Magazine, thank you for your time, and go Bills.